Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 5 Weird Things About Life in Sweden. So I don't know how weird it could be. I think, maybe like if you're coming from an outsider's perspective, I do believe that something really weird about Sweden is like the weather, not the actual weather like in general, but the fact that the sun doesn't set like at all during certain like days or like time periods of the year, and that they have like an endless night, and they also have like endless sun. That's pretty weird. Not for them, but I think, from anyone outside of Sweden, I would think that's weird. But I don't know what kind of things we're gonna be learning about. Hopefully it's not gonna be too weird. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Every once in a while, I come across things in my life that are just different. As someone that is born and raised in America for the first 22 years of my life and then moved to Sweden and am now a Swedish citizen, there's still things to this day that strike me as peculiar. And being that this channel is really focused on talking about cultural differences between countries, anytime I experience enough of these differences, I jot them down in my notes. And when I have enough of them all together, I bring them to you guys on this channel of things that I've noticed that are just a little bit weird, specifically in this video about Swedish society. So without further ado, let's talk about these things that are uniquely Swedish. This first difference is rather simple, but it can lead to a lot of confusion, especially this time of year, because this is the time of year where everyone is telling their employers what days or weeks they want to take off for vacation in the summertime. Well, we can leave aside the fact that people in Sweden get a lot more summer vacation or just vacation days in general compared to people in the US. I've already discussed that on this channel, but in terms
honestly, like, who doesn't? Like, in the US, like, the workers they work you like a lot. So, it's not hard to say like, oh, this country gets a lot more like vacation or, just vacation days in general. It's like, yeah, well, it's not hard if you're coming from the United States.
In terms of actually reporting the days or weeks that you're going to be off, in Sweden, every week has a number. Whereas in the US, we simply don't number our weeks. And for me, this is very confusing when I ask somebody, when are you going to be off in the summer? And they say, oh, week 34 to week 37.
What?
Like, what month is that? What days are that? Like, for me, coming from the US, it still causes confusion for me, which is quite funny. You'd think I would get used to it by now. The only time of the year where actually counting the weeks still makes sense in my head is like right after New Year's. I'm like, yeah, it's week 1, it's week 2. I can keep track. But this whole like week 35, week 37, the summer.
Okay, so they just keep track of, like he said, it's okay, yeah. Like during the first like week of the year, I think it makes sense because you're like, oh, it's the first week of like 2025. So it's like, it's the first week. Maybe like the second week, but then afterwards you're just like, it's just January. So it is how I don't really know why they do this. Like, it has to be like some sort of like bigger purpose, because to me it doesn't make any sense. Do they have to keep track of all of these things? Like, even like children, like when you're at school, like you have to be like, oh yeah, it's week 40. It's like, what does that mean? Like, when he said, like, what month is that? I have no idea. How many? I don't even know, like, at the top of my head. I don't even know how many weeks are there in a year. I actually do not know that. I've never had to answer that because it's days. It's like, it's always days. So why would you even, and besides, even when it's days, like yearly days, you're not saying, oh, it's day 200. It's like, no, you would say like it's October. Well, I don't really know if it's October, but you would say like it's January, or it's, February 3rd. You wouldn't go around just calling weeks or like, oh yeah, it's, it's week 50. It's like, what happened? It's like, what is that? I have no idea. That's so strange to me.
Schedules, maybe it's not even 35, 37, maybe it's in the 20s. That just goes to show how clueless I am about counting weeks. So that to me is very different in Sweden. But if you're from another country that also counts weeks like this, let me know in the comments section, because I'm curious if this is just a Swedish thing or if it's just a not American thing. This second one is pretty funny, but I think that this one also says a lot about the culture on a deeper level. Okay. And this is the concept of provanställning, or trial employment, if we would translate it into English. In Sweden, it's a lot more difficult to fire a permanent employee. Businesses have to document a bunch of things and jump through a lot of hoops if they want to fire someone who is underperforming. Generally, in the US, it's a lot easier.
I think that's, again, I think this is a little weird because what happens, I understand the purpose. Like, you want to obviously protect the worker, which obviously that's how it should be. But now I'm siding with the employer because it's like, okay, if I want to fire someone because they're like bad at their job, can I do that? Apparently I can't. I have to really document it, which I guess if like it's a really, like it's, they're not doing their job properly, I'm guessing it's not going to be that hard. But I'd be curious to know, like, because I'm thinking of this, is like, okay, but if it's like that difficult to fire someone, it means that I have to go through like a very rigorous process in hiring them, because I know that it's gonna be like, if it doesn't work, I can just fire them. It's like, no, if it's so hard, then obviously I have to like really, really make sure like this is the right decision and I'm going to hire this person because I'm like 100% sure that I'm not gonna fire them and they're gonna be a right fit. So is it like a rigorous process, like the hiring process? And I would also would say that maybe maybe people don't get hired as much because, again, if I'm scared, I'm thinking as the employer, I'm scared of like firing down the line. So maybe I'm not hiring as many people as maybe I would like in other places because like I can fire them if it doesn't work. I'm so curious. I think, again, this is so strange to me.
Easier to fire someone. Now keep in mind this could vary from industry to industry, but as a general rule, it's much easier to fire somebody in the US than it is in Sweden. But in Sweden, you have this 6 months of trial employment.
Okay.
And pretty much during this first 6 months of trying out a new employee, the business can let them go if it's not working out. It was quite interesting because we had a new employee come into our company who is just a superstar. She does such an amazing job at everything. And I remember she had been working with us for about 5 months. And she goes, you know, I'm kind of nervous. I'm still on my trial employment period and I have to stay on for 1 more month in order to convert it to a more permanent employment. And I thought to myself, you're doing such an amazing job. I don't think there's any reason that you should be worried about that. Then I got to thinking to myself a little bit about my own mindset and what it would mean to work a job in the US. And pretty much in that situation, your entire career is a trial employment period because if you're not doing well, it's much easier to be let go. Whereas in Sweden, you have this sense of security once you're permanently employed, which you see translates to a very relaxed and secure work environment in Sweden. Whereas in the US, people are always pushing and working hard, working extra hours, going above and beyond outside of their work hours. So I think this concept alone and the fact that it's harder to fire someone in Sweden really contributes to this work-life balance that a lot of Swedish employees have versus the hustle mentality, which is really ingrained in American culture. This next one is...
Yeah, I think that he makes a good point because obviously I went to like the employer's point of view, but he's thinking obviously as the employee. And it's like, yes, of course, he makes an excellent point, which is like, yes, of course, if you have like a certain like job security, because you know that I'm not going to get fired. Like once I'm through like the trial period, then it's really hard for them to like let me go. So of course I'm going to be more safe in my position. And I think obviously in the US, it's like, no, you're constantly anxious that people can't let you go like any point whatsoever. So of course that obviously contributes to like your anxiety and your safety levels, and obviously your level of like happiness in general. But he makes a good point. I like that. It's like a 6 months trial period because I was like, that refers to what I was saying of like, what happens if you do a bad job? He's like, well, yeah, that's what you have, like the trial period makes sense. It's like, yes, if it doesn't work like during this time period, you can adjust and say like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And at the end, if they aren't like, again, if it's not the right fit, of course you can let them go. But also, I'm thinking, what happens? Like, well, no, hopefully not that this is not the case. Like, it doesn't happen that often. But there are psychopaths out there. So what happens if, like, during the 6 months they're like the perfect employee, but then like in month 8 or like 7, they start behaving like erratically and bad. So it's like, oh, so they just like wanted us to like he was acting in a very particular way, being super perfect, but then afterwards, once he got like the job security, now he's acting like so bad, and I want to fire this person. Like, does that happen often? Hopefully you won't, because again, people are not, in general, they're sane people, but they're psychopaths. I don't know, people are weird sometimes, so I'm wondering if that happens like quite often, of like, no, he sort of like tricked us, like we were bamboozled by this. Like at first he was like a perfect trial period, 6 months, and then afterwards like it went downhill. He was like, you can't fire me now, so I'm constantly like I'm late, I'm not doing my job, stuff like that. I'm wondering how often does that happen, or it's just like, no, I'm being dramatic. It doesn't really happen because, like it's real life. People are not like this. But I don't know. But wondering that, and also if you, like during that trial period, did you get paid just as normally as you would an employee? Because I think because I'm likening to an internship, and now that a lot of internships actually do not get paid. The interns are just like they're working for free. Some companies do sort of like make some arrangements. Maybe you get paid like half or, a quarter, like they pay you something because you're an intern. So you're not technically like within the company, and they tell you like, oh, you're learning and whatever. They should pay you because you're working for free. But that's not the case always. But however, like in this situation, do you get paid normally, like as an employee? You're like in the company role and, they pay you just as normally, or do they have, but you have like a different contract, or is it like, no, it's the same, like you have the same contract, like, but is like, or again, is this like a specific contract that just lasts 6 months, but you're still getting paid normally, or they pay you a little less? I don't know, would love to know.
Something that I've never fully adjusted to, let's be honest. Now, there are elements of this which are very nice. In the wintertime in Sweden, we all know that it gets very cold and very dark. But one thing that Swedes are really good at is making the meal times very cozy, very comfortable. They like to light candles, make
gorgeous.
it mysig is the word in Swedish for making it cozy and a nice vibe. I, for one, really enjoy the mysig vibe. But the one area where I find that it can be a little bit strange is when it comes to eating meals. So imagine this. You're at home with your Swedish partner. One of you has been working hard in the kitchen for a long time to prepare a meal that looks absolutely stunning. You plate it up, you put it on your plate, but then right before you're about to eat, you turn all the lights off and light a single candle. This has happened to me many times, and I look at my plate and I can barely make out the food. I have to like sort of squint to try to figure out what is it that I'm gonna eat. This to me has happened time and time again throughout my time in Sweden. Although this mysig feeling is very cozy and it's amazing to light candles, I feel like I just need a little bit more light to enjoy my food.
This is very funny. Yes, I get what he means. It's like, am I eating fish? What is it that I'm cutting right now? A carrot? I don't know. But just like more candles. I love this. I love this environment. I think it's so pretty. That's what he means, like, well, just one candle. Well, just like light several candles, and that you get like the cozy environment, and also you're actually seeing what's in your plate.
Properly. If there was a light with a dimmer switch, then maybe,
it's not the same.
The full dimness,
no,
but
it's not
a little bit brighter. I don't want to eat in a completely bright room, and I think there is something to be said about a cozy ambiance, but I think Swedes are comfortable with having the light level a little bit lower than I'm comfortable with when it comes to eating. This next difference is very interesting to me as someone that has just recently become a Swedish citizen. And that is the difference in if you were to say you wanted to give up one of your citizenships. The US is a country that taxes you over the entire world. I mean, there are rules in place that you can deduct some taxes from a country that you're living in.
Yeah, but hold on, do you have to renounce Sweden doesn't allow for double citizenship? That would be extremely strange to me. Like, what?
Against what you would have to pay in the US. But the US is a country that's very unique in that you have to file a tax return even if you haven't lived in the US for years and years and years.
You always want
your money. Just the fact that you're a US citizen means that you have to file your taxes there. So there's a lot of wealthy individuals that consider giving up their US citizenship, especially if they have another passport. I don't think I could ever give up my US citizenship, but out of curiosity.
Oh, okay. He just meant like in general. It's not that Sweden. It's like, no, you have to renounce your American citizenship in order to become a Swedish citizen, because that would be very strange. I know that some countries do so, but I found them very strange. It's like, no, come on, like it's not like you can have like several citizenships. It's okay.
I looked into what are the implications if someone wanted to give up their US citizenship, or on the other side, if someone was Swedish and wanted to give up their Swedish passport. If an individual decides to give up US citizenship, it clearly states that you can never become a US citizen ever again. They sort of have this policy that you're either with us or you're not.
This is interesting because I think I don't really know the law obviously everywhere else, but I know that some countries do allow you, like you can renounce your citizenship, at certain point in your life, but then you can also like go back to this. Like it's not that you're going back and forth. I don't know how many times they allowed you to do this. Probably just once. It's not like it's like, oh yeah, I'm renouncing like this year, and then like in 5 years I'm getting it back, and then like 5 more years afterwards I'm gonna return it again. No. But I think they allowed you, like it's probably, I think they allowed you to do this just once, because those are the cases that I've seen. Because again, it makes sense if you're like you're renouncing for specific, you know, life circumstances, or maybe like the country that you're getting a new citizenship from doesn't really allow, you know, double citizenship. So you're like, okay, yes, I have to renounce to that one. And then down the line, like 10 years later, like maybe you're like, no, I want to get it back. And they allowed you to do that. Like, it's okay. But obviously you can't go through the whole process again. But again, they allowed you to do so, especially because again, like why wouldn't, like they wouldn't, again, I'm sorry. Like it's not like I made a mistake, but again, like circumstances, you know, just happen. And again, that's the thing. Laws also change, and they're constantly changing, like in every single country. So I think it makes sense for them to like give you a little leeway of, okay, like you can do it just once, you know, you think about it, you can only like do this process once, but it's okay. You can return to this, like, you know, down the line. But the fact that the US is like, no, once you announce this, like it's forever. No, you can't get it back, which I think is ruthless. Honestly, I think it's ruthless.
Not with us. And if you decide that you're not with us, then that's it. In Sweden, if you decide to give up your Swedish citizenship, it doesn't really seem like they're as harsh if you want to become Swedish again. Not only can you become Swedish again if you want to, but you'll actually be fast-tracked and have a faster process than people that have never been Swedish before. In terms of rules and punishments, the US can seem like it's a little bit more...
Actually, yeah, I don't know how the Swedish like citizenship works. I don't know. Obviously, you have to live there at a certain point in your life. I don't know how many years or whatever, but I think, again, in other countries, I think it's just enough. Maybe if you were born there, I think they again, you have more like it's easier, because it's like, yes, I lived here, I was born there, I moved, I renounced, and then I want it back. Do I have to move to Sweden to actually get it back? Or is it just enough to have like, you know, a birth certificate that says that I was born there? You know, I don't think that you have to like, no, I have to move there and return and actually live there in order to get it back. Or is the process different from those that acquired citizenship through like, you know, residence or by living there? But I don't know. This is like, it's getting very complicated.
Or the harsh culture compared to Sweden. Whereas in Sweden, things are just more relaxed and people are more forgiving. And you see also the difference in Swedish and American prisons, which I also discussed in a previous video on my channel. That said, the cultural differences are quite interesting. The last weird difference that I want to point out in this video is when it comes to advertising, and specifically when it comes to advertising alcohol in Sweden.
Okay.
According to Swedish law, you're not really allowed to advertise alcohol. So what do the beer companies do, or the alcohol companies in Sweden do? They advertise their product, which is 0.0% alcohol. I think it's kind of funny because everybody knows when you see an ad for Norrlands Gold, a 0.0, that it's just a way of their actual beer being top of mind, and it's just their way of going around the rules and, you know, abiding by the rules. But it's weird because
okay, but I don't get it. It's a beer that doesn't have alcohol, but also they have another line that is just normal beer. Is that the case?
US or most other countries, I believe, for that matter, you can just advertise alcohol. It's not a big deal. But Sweden has a very special relationship with alcohol, and I've discussed this many times with their Systembolaget stores, their state-run liquor stores that control the sales of alcohol. And on the flip side, America is kind of weird how we have our commercials for prescription drugs quite often that you can ask your doctor about, and then you watch a commercial and there'll be a big list of warnings and side effects that they have to verbally say on the commercial.
And they always go like blah, 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 because there's like so many things and you don't understand anything, but because it's just so many words.
I've never really seen a commercial like that in Sweden, but I do think it's a little weird that in Sweden they have these advertisements for 0.0% alcoholic beverages. And in the US, it's weird that they advertise prescription drugs. So guys, those were the top 5 weird cultural differences that have been on my mind lately. Let me know in the comments down below which one you think was the weirdest, and if you think that there's anything that I missed in this video. I look forward to seeing you guys in another one soon.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting. I was thinking about the alcohol thing and the prescription drugs. He makes a good point. It's like, oh, you guys think like, you know, speaking of like Swedish people, like you guys think that it's weird that the US has like prescription drugs like commercials and ads. it's like, well, it's that weird, really, like you guys cannot advertise beer, so, or any type of alcohol. So it is like, yeah, I think it's sort of like pick your poison, because technically alcohol, and again, I know that prescription drugs, like it's medication. It's not like I'm using stuff like recreationally. It's like it's medication. But at the end of the day, I think it's like more a little bit of that. Well, it's a drug at the end of the day. I don't know, like, so I don't know, it's a weird sort of like line to cross. So I can see why it's like, again, it's like pick your poison. It's like, well, you guys do not get any like alcohol advertised. In America we do get alcohol, but you guys do not. Like, I don't know, it's weird. I think it's just like, it's strange, but I think it just depends on like the country's relationship with, like he said, alcohol. I think Sweden, I think it's weird with alcohol, the fact that they really do. I don't know why. Maybe like it was like they had a time period where like no, everyone was an alcoholic, everyone had an alcohol problem, because I find it quite strange the fact that they do not, like this, apparently they can't advertise alcohol. But I think I find it like that strangers did not. That to me is a little weird, but I think I've seen other places that do this, like you can't advertise alcohol. So again, it just depends. It's not that weird to me. But what I do find extremely weird about Sweden is that you can't get, there's like the liquor stores, and like apparently, like, I don't really understand how it works properly, but apparently like the government is the one that like owns this store. Like you can't just like outright go to a liquor store and get whatever, like it's measured, and there's like certain types of liquor that are forbidden, and again, like the government controls this. I think that's really weird. It's like, why should the government control this? Like, isn't this a democracy? But I get, like, maybe if they had, I don't really know, obviously the circumstances that made it so. I'm guessing like they were like maybe a lot of like car crashes with people like driving under the influence. I don't really know. I guess they must have their reasons, but that to me is extremely weird, and that's probably, and that coupled that with the fact that apparently you can't advertise alcohol, it tells me that apparently Sweden has a weird relationship with alcohol. Weird as in like weird to me, because I'm unaware of this, but obviously for them it's like it's normal. But I think maybe I don't know if they know, like maybe it's a little particular. I think the word is not weird. I think it's particular, because it's like, it's a little different from most places. But I don't know if they're aware of this and be like, wow, it is a little particular, or they think that's normal. I would love to speak to a Swedish person and find out like what they think about this. But yes, in general, I think there are a lot of like things that are that. I think it's a little weird. Maybe, yes. Is it though? I think it's more particular instead of like weird, because again, for them, it's probably not weird. It's like, well, no, not to me. I've lived this my whole life. So maybe it's not that weird, but I think it's particular. Some places do things different. Although I think it all like gets, everything has like a point, and it's like, yeah, when you think about this, it's like, well, you know what? I think it makes sense. So it's not like weird as in like, oh, what do they do this? That's so strange. He's like, no, everything has a logic, and I think it's like, oh, it's understandable like in one way or another. Like the citizenship thing of like, well, again, the US does it different, because the US has like a particular set of circumstances that are different from Sweden. The one that I'm like a little, that I love to actually, is the one that like the cozy environment. That would be the one thing that will be like, it's maybe a little weird of like, we have, there's, we have lamps. Why can't we like, turn on the lamp when we're eating? But I love it, and I'm with them. I think I'm going to start applying this to my life, because I think it's like, yes, I love when there's like cozy lighting, like you dim the lights, and it's very like, again, that creates a cozy feeling. Like when there's like very harsh lighting, it's not, it's not that nice. But I think usually just like dim the lights. But it's like, oh, I hadn't thought of this. So just like you actually like turn on some, turn them off, and have like some candles. It's like, oh, that's so nice. Like he said, I wouldn't mind, like, unless you have like, it's just like one candle and everything's very dark. I actually can't see what I'm eating. Which I can see why, but maybe like wear your glasses maybe, and put more candles. Again, you can have like a cozy, like, I don't know, put like several candles. It's gonna be the same, or like the fireplace that also like gives you a little light. So it is like, it creates like a cozy environment, especially like for dinners. And I love this, and I'm gonna start adapting them. because it's like, yes, I like them. We're gonna have a cozy dinner with just, with just like some candles. I like that. So it's like, I'm surprised that he's like, I don't like this. I'm like no, I need dim the lights, but just do not turn them off. I'm sorry to say, I'm not with him. I'm with the sweets here. I'm like, no, let's do it. It sounds lovely. But that was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.